This episode is sponsored by Team Mojo, an organization that supports leaders who care about creating engaged and high-performing teams. We provide skills training and coaching in communicating expectations with team members and clients, giving meaningful feedback, delegating, and tracking performance. In short, we facilitate team alignment that creates higher commitment to the organization's purpose. Go to teammojo.ca for more information. Welcome to Suits and Sneakers, a series featuring sage advice and candid conversations with seasoned leaders from diverse backgrounds and styles. I'm your host, Carrie Tuttle. With my guests, we deep dive into areas of team engagement, motivation, and effective performance management. Get ready to be inspired and transform your approach to leadership. Please like, subscribe, or follow to be notified when future episodes are released. Let's get started. Today, I have with me Lisa Reimer, senior leader with 20 years experience in oil and gas, most recently with Husky Synovus. She establishes deep relationships, builds strong teams, is adept at solving problems. She takes a strategic but practical approach. In her most recent role as director of operations, she led a team of over 40 staff during a difficult corporate sale process, with many team members knowing that they were losing their jobs at the end of the sale. Wow, I want to hear about that. Outside of her professional career, you can find Lisa on hiking trails, in a yoga studio, attempting to learn knitting, and fulfilling her passion for travel. Her leadership approach is based on open and honest communication. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today, Lisa. Welcome to Suits and Sneakers.
Thanks, Carrie, and thanks for having me. I'm very excited to share some of the stories over my career in different leadership roles. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, we're here in the spirit of virtual mentorship for the next generation. Can you give a little bit of context on your last role?
Sure. So my last role at Husky Synovus took over Husky in 2021, I guess it would have been. So I was the director of corporate operations. So all of the corporately owned assets across the country. I had a team of about 40 plus people that included direct and indirect reports. It was an interesting position because it was a position where I took on one particular team that had very technical, very specific skills and professionals in this area, and I had absolutely zero experience in it or knowledge of it. So it was interesting. The other members of my team, I was quite familiar with their day-to-day and their responsibilities and accountabilities, but I did take on a new team, so it was quite a new dynamic. And obviously a very interesting dynamic because Husky had been taken over by Synovus, so we had some cultural changes that were going on within the organization. And then soon into that role, we were put up for sale. So our business unit was going to sell off a lot of the assets, and people were going to be coming to the end of their career at Husky Synovus. Some were staying, but some were definitely leaving. So it was an interesting time, that's for sure.
I bet. How did you keep everyone on track and focused as far as what the main priorities were to keep moving forward, even knowing that some of them were going to be leaving?
Right. Yeah. We did have a number of people that it was the right time in their career and they knew they were looking for retirement. So it was wonderful to have a blend of that. Yeah. We had some people that were quite upset about the process. I think people experienced different emotions to different degrees at different times. I quickly found that we had to build a safe place for people to feel those feelings and not be reprimanded in any way for feeling them. We still had a job to do. My team took a great deal of pride in their work. So that was really key. I leaned into their pride in the job that they were doing. And in a lot of cases, that took them to the end and to handing over the business to the buyers with a great deal of pride. So that definitely helped. And I think we were, despite the fact that the team was spread across the country, they kept connected with each other and gave each other the space to have a not so great day, and someone else could kind of step in, motivate a little bit, and some would come to me and say, I'm not having a great day, and we just had to appreciate and give safe space to be able to have that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate, I mean, psychological safety is a big topic these days in corporations and within leadership.
Mhm.
So the interesting thing I was thinking about as you were telling that story is how you might have been feeling also as the leader leading this team.
Yeah, you know what? When I think back to it, I was going through the cultural shift coming under Synovus, and transitioning out of a business that I had been passionate about and had a long history with. So yeah, I was definitely going through those emotions, and sometimes I had to lean into that a little bit and be open and vulnerable with my team. And sometimes I had to tuck it away and be able to move on. So there wasn't really, any precise calculation that I did. It was really about open and honest communication to the best of my ability, um, being there for my team and creating that open space for them to have those feelings and to feel differently from day to day. The other thing that was really key to the success in that transition, I think, was keeping people busy. Everybody, I mean, it became a very busy time because we were getting ready to transition the business. And so people had a sense of what they needed to do to contribute to make this a successful transition. And it really did keep people busy. And I think that helped keeping people engaged in what they were doing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You said that the team was distributed across the country. How did you keep that sense of like we're together and clear understanding of who's doing what?
We definitely met a lot more frequently, a lot more face to face conversations. We just had to ramp that up. So it meant, going out to each of the markets, the bigger markets that we could get to, and spending time together, having a little bit of fun together, but also spending time together and having those tough discussions or those good discussions. It wasn't always tough discussions, quite honestly. There were definitely some really good times.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
And did you experience any sort of confusion from the team as far as like what's my area of responsibility versus someone else?
No, not in that regard. We were able to. We stumbled a little bit at the beginning, just figuring out what that process was going to look like. But we quickly delegated and had great. We had people step up and say, I'd like to be a leader of this stream of the work as we go through this process. So we really had great processes in place. It didn't come without some bumps along the way, but we definitely got quickly to a place where we had those processes. So people had pretty clearly defined roles and responsibilities when it came to that process itself, for sure.
What are some of the team achievements that you're proud of?
Well, over the course of many years, there's some obviously some financial achievements that I'm very proud of that my team was able to deliver on, and some safety related challenges and some initiatives that we undertook. I'm incredibly proud of the team of people, especially during that last couple of years in that role. I'm really proud of how well they went through that process and how hard they worked, and the success that I think they should all feel handing over that business to buyers. They really did an outstanding job. So that would be definitely one of my greater accomplishments when it comes to teams, for sure.
Well, and I imagine everybody had these different perspectives. So just coming into it and wanting something different out of it, I can imagine that was the
Yes.
case. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Um, how would you describe your approach to leadership?
Well, I think if you would ask other people, I think they would say that I lead with very honest and open communication. I don't mind having the difficult conversations. I don't take it personally, and I don't want other people to take things personally, because I think honest and open communication is what drives the business forward. It also allows you to feel like you are being told the true story as much as you can. Obviously, there's times in when you can't share everything, but I'm honest about that as well. There are things I can't share, and there are things I can share.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I do lean into my team, especially when it comes to their specific area of expertise. Like I said, when I had a team where I knew nothing about what they did, I had to really be the leader and let them teach me. And I had to ask a lot of questions, especially when it came to things I was unsure of. So that was fun and interesting. I do like to consult with my team, and I really like to hear other people's perspectives because there's often things as a leader um, you can miss or not even think of different ideas when it comes to how to move forward. At the end of the day, though, I do have to make the decision, and I am accountable as the leader. So I would consult, I would hear input from others, but at the end of the day, I would sometimes have to make the tough decision. And even if it wasn't agreed on by everybody, I'd have to make the decision that I felt was best for the business.
Yeah. Well, and I think for newer leaders or newer people who are listening who might be newer leaders, it's a really good example of humility and knowing that you don't have to have all of the answers. You
Yeah,
need to solicit the answers from your team.
absolutely. And I actually think you don't have time to know everything about everything.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you can't be a good leader in that, because I do think that being a good leader is knowing what you need to do as a leader and really let your subject matter experts, your industry experts, let them bring you the knowledge that you need to know, and you don't need to know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think that's actually kind of freeing.
yeah, 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 can be.
Yeah. I'm curious how you navigated your career path to get to the level that you did. Like, what are some of those key decisions that you made throughout your career?
When I came into early on in my career, I didn't really see myself, ending up in a director role with that sort of responsibility from a budget perspective or a people perspective. And quite honestly, I didn't apply for a number of the roles that I took on in my career. And I'm actually quite proud of that. I think I had a really great trajectory in that in my career. Um, I think I looked at each opportunity as an opportunity to do something different. And not all of my career path was not, I took a lot of lateral roles, but it was an opportunity to learn something new, learn a different part of the business. That meant being vulnerable and asking a lot of questions in an area that I didn't necessarily have experience in. But I think that got me to where I was, where I am, and I am quite proud of that for sure. Yeah, so looking at things as an opportunity, not always having to have a promotion be that next role. Those lateral roles can be incredibly beneficial to your resume, to your knowledge, just another area to learn new things.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think sometimes we limit ourselves, right? We think, oh, we have to have this one perspective, and then we just think it's a linear path up the ladder. And that's
Right.
often not the case.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah, and I would say, I mean, and when people are out there, take opportunities, learn new things. I think nowadays people are. I mean, my parents' generation was, work for the same company, do the same thing for forever and ever, and retire. And it's very different now, which is great. Because I think it fosters an environment where people are willing to step out and try new things.
Yeah, for sure. I think the stat is around 2 years that most people stay
Right.
in the same role now, and or even 18 months, which is
Yeah.
so short, but
Yeah, it
that's
is.
an yeah, that's an average. So some are longer, some are shorter.
Yeah,
It really depends. But yeah, being open to other opportunities. I love that.
yeah, for sure.
Thinking of maybe some younger women who are listening, what are some ninja tips you would give to young women who want to position themselves for those higher leadership roles?
Oh gosh, ninja tips. Um, I mean, I think people should be brave and be bold. I think bold with respect and all of that, but be brave. You're never going to learn and you're never going to know unless you put yourself out there.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think we can be somewhat catastrophic in our thinking. You know, if I say this, this is going to happen. Most things are fixable, and and we can learn. So I would say be bold, and be yourself. Sometimes, and I've seen it in my career. Um, People are, and often women, people are, you know, sort of groomed into be towing the company line and not being bold and not asking questions and not challenging in a respectful way. And it's unfortunate because I think you lose a lot of knowledge and insight, when you do that. So yeah, be bold, be yourself.
I love that. Did you have a mentor or somebody who was helping you move into higher roles?
I didn't have a formal mentor. It's actually interesting. An individual, a female, who I know quite well, works for a competitor, in the industry, and I always actually saw her as a bit of a mentor, because she was bold. She was truly authentically herself, which
Mm,
didn't resonate with everybody, but I don't think it has to be a good leader and to be successful. And she was passionate about what she did, still is. She's actually retiring this year, so lost to that organization. But yeah, I always looked at her, as a bit of a mentor. And I would have loved to have had a formal mentor. I didn't, but I sought other ways to pull things from other women in leadership roles that I admired.
hmm Well, and formal mentorship is awesome in a lot of ways because it's really intimate, but it also puts a lot of pressure because you may agree with some of the things or they may fit you and other things may not fit you. And so you sort of feel like sometimes maybe you need to emulate that one person when maybe there's three or four or five perspectives that could benefit you.
For
So,
sure, for sure,
yeah.
and that's always been my approach, even with, listening to different speakers. If you can glean one or two nuggets from that speaker or from somebody you just admire, take those one or two nuggets and build your own toolkit that fits you. And I've always approached it that way.
Yeah. As you think back on your career, I know you've had some sort of crazy experiences as a leader. What are one or two stories that you're able to share that would be kind of fun and interesting for our listeners?
Sure, I did. We went through a restructuring at one point at one of the companies I worked at, and I don't know why they did it this way, but we were all told to write down on a piece of paper different roles that we would be interested in. So I went through the process, put down this particular role. They ended up coming to me and saying, "We'd like you to take on this particular role that I had written down." Well, what happened was my predecessor became my employee, and it was yeah, it was very tricky. It was a team that was not performing, where it should have been performing. The quality of work was definitely not where it should have been. They didn't have very well defined roles and responsibilities. And what ended up happening over the course of time was another group was actually picking up a lot of the slack.
Okay.
So it was a bit of a contentious between these two groups. I came in as the manager, predecessor was now my employee. So it took some difficult resource, discussions, and ended up being difficult resource decisions. I sort of had a vision of what success was going to look like what would success at the end of this look like. I had a bit of a vision for it. And really what I had to do was lean on the other people on the team to say, what does success look like for you? If if you could picture a very successful group producing quality work, what does that look like? What are we missing? So collectively, we were able to sort of set that vision for ourselves. What does success look like? It was challenging, without a doubt. It also meant this team that had been picking up the slack for a number of years. It meant letting them know that, first of all, our quality of work is moving up. And secondly, we now have to set those clear roles and responsibilities. This is this team's role and responsibility. And we eventually got there. But yeah, it was definitely challenging from start to finish. It was challenging.
I bet.
Yeah,
Wow. Well, and I think many of us have had the experience where we step into a leadership role and we're leading people who are, like you said, more experienced, maybe more senior previously. And that can be an interesting relationship dynamic to navigate.
for sure. And it was, it was, I'm sure, frustrating for that individual. But yeah, I mean, it unfortunately, at the end of the day, it is, I had to make some tough business decisions, and yeah, we were able to move the team along to a successful place, which was important.
Yeah. What you said you had another story too. I think there was something kind of funny that happened that you
Hmm.
shared before.
I'm not sure if I can remember now which we had. So there's a number of stories across the board that I could probably share with you. I'm trying to think of which one you might have in mind.
Oh, there was one about like driving the company car. Can you
Oh,
tell that
yes,
one?
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. Took over a team, and picked up the employee file, and it was quite a thick employee file. And yes, the first piece of paper I read was a discussion with the employee that they had been seen driving a company car down the highway while reading a novel. So it was, yeah, yeah, that was an interesting one. There were a few interesting moments there, that's for sure.
Wow. Yeah, you don't expect to see that
Yeah.
and luckily you didn't have to have that conversation, but somebody did.
Yes, it wasn't me that had to have that conversation. I did have to have a tough conversation later on down the road, but not at that time for sure.
Uh, that's
Yeah.
a funny one. So, Lisa, what do you do? Leaders are under a lot of pressure and there's often a lot of stress, and we're giving to our team. So sometimes forget to take care of ourselves. What do you do in your free time to recharge your batteries?
Yeah, if I could go back to bits of advice for other people, that is one area where I wish I would have learned early on in my career how to manage stress differently. I definitely took too much of it home at different times. But getting to that place of managing stress, I mean, spending time with my family, it really compartmentalizing work and family life. Work is work, and it needs to stay there. That can be challenging to do when you're going through stressful times. Again, I had open and honest relationships with not only my team but also my peers, so I could lean on people to have those conversations when I was feeling stressed. And at the end of the day, it's a job. It's a job. There's so much more to life, and I think people have to keep that in mind, that it's a job. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're away from work, what helps you to kind of feel like you got a break?
Travel, getting away and traveling. That's, yeah, just changing up my four walls, getting out of the house, out of the office, and just being out. Yeah, traveling.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, nice. When you think about like younger Lisa starting
Mhm.
her career and entering sort of the leadership and corporate game, what advice would you have for your younger self?
Well, I was always a worrier, so I would say try not to worry as much. I think that that's hard to do when you're in it, but trust that things always work out or usually work out. Someone once told me they had actually given me advice. Sometimes our own internal critic, our own voice inside of our head, can be so destructive. And we would never talk to our best friend that way. If your best friend came to you and said, "This is how I'm feeling," or "I've made this mistake," you would give them encouragement and good advice. And I often stop myself and say, you know what, when I'm beating myself up about something, I think, what would I tell my best friend if they came to me? And so I've actually shared that with actually my daughter. Treat yourself and talk to yourself as you would talk to your best friend. Give yourself that encouragement. Give yourself that advice. So it's kind of one of the things that I think I wish I would have learned a little bit earlier on in life, so I could take those moments and pause and really think it through.
Mhm. That's really great advice. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. What else would you like to share?
Yeah, I think going back to mentorship, women in leadership, I would just I would just really love to see more women stepping out and being bold and taking those risks and being there for each other, supporting each other. I think is really important. Learn from each other, like I said, pull those little nuggets from different individuals, build your own toolbox that suits you.
Mhm.
But yeah, be open to listening and learning from others.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's beautiful. I love that. I'm really passionate about that as well. So that really resonated with me. Thank you.
Good, good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. It's been a pleasure having you. And
Yeah.
I think everyone's really going to enjoy the stories that you shared and the advice that you've given. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie. Looking forward to the next podcast as well.
We're happy you joined us for Suits and Sneakers. If you want to be an expert guest, look for the link in the show notes. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify or YouTube.